Good morning. This is Kathleen Clough at Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. The fire potential impacts across the next few days include gusty winds between 30 and 40 miles per hour and low RH across southeastern Nevada, most of Utah, and the Arizona Strip, where minimum relative humidities will be in the single digits. This zone of 30 to 40 mile per hour winds and single digit RH expands further west into eastern Nevada as well as north to cover more of Utah on Wednesday. On Thursday, we expect to see RH values increase into maybe the low double digits across eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, and that same area of risk over southeastern Nevada and much of Utah. But winds will increase to 35 to 45 miles per hour, bringing a continued risk for gusty and dry conditions. Northern Idaho will see some mixed wet and dry storms, with the wettest storms to the north on Thursday. Radar estimates from the past 24 hours show sparse precipitation of up to a quarter inch falling across portions of central Idaho, with up to an inch seen in small pockets across that area. The satellite loop from yesterday afternoon into the evening shows lightning strikes across northern Nevada and central Idaho, lining up with areas that likely receive precipitation, especially in central Idaho. In the past 24 hours, the Great Basin had 20 new starts for a total of 7.14 acres and a large fire growth of 50,136 acres. The past 3 days show the highest precipitation amounts across the Nevada Idaho border, portions of central Idaho, and parts of western Wyoming. These areas received at least a tenth of an inch, with sparse pockets of up to 1 inch. The rest of the basin remained dry, with a few areas of southern Utah receiving very sparse and light precipitation. In the last 30 days, much of the Great Basin received well below average amounts of precipitation, except northwestern Nevada and sparse portions of central Idaho. ERC values remain between 50 and 75% across western Idaho and the Sierra Front from recent precipitation, but are back on the rise across the Sierra Front. ERC values across eastern Nevada, Utah, eastern central Idaho, and western Wyoming remain extremely high, above 97%, and are on the rise across the Arizona Strip and much of southern Utah. Satellite loop from this morning shows a mix of smoke and clouds across the basin, with a few lingering storms across central Idaho and a few stray lightning strikes. Smoke impacts for today will occur over the Nevada Idaho border and into central Idaho and western Wyoming due to those northern Nevada fires and one of those northern California fires, as well as the eastern half of Nevada from that large southern California wildfire. The smoke from California will travel into Utah as well and combine with smoke from the Monroe Canyon and Dragon Bravo fires, where we will see the most significant smoke impact. A similar pattern occurs again on Wednesday. On Tuesday, we've issued high risk for wind across the southern half of Utah, parts of southeastern Nevada, and the Arizona Strip. The Sierra Front, northern central Idaho, and west Wyoming remain at low to little or no risk due to previous precipitation and higher RH values. On the left here, you can see those higher winds and that dry air mass across Nevada and Utah today. No precipitation is expected within the basin today, and max temperatures will be between the mid 80s to low 90s for the northern half of the basin, and in the low to mid 90s and even triple digits across southern Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. We will continue to see that higher wind risk today, where we expect to still see those 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts across southeastern Nevada, southern Utah, the Arizona Strip, and western Wyoming. Minimum relative humidities will remain critical and in the single digits between 5 and 10% across those gusty wind areas in the southern half of the Great Basin, and in the teens to low 20s where we've been having our rain in the northern half of the basin. On Wednesday, that high risk area for winds expands to include more of eastern Nevada and parts of northern Utah. Western Wyoming has moved from low to moderate risk due to dry, breezy conditions. The Sierra Front and northern central Idaho remain at low or little to no risk due to previous precipitation and higher RH values. But again, you can see that dry air mass and those gusty winds kind of settled across the basin on Wednesday. We will be dry again on Wednesday with no chance of precipitation, and max temperatures will remain on the rise in between the mid 80s to mid 90s for the northern half of the basin, and in the mid 90s to even triple digits across southern Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip, as well as some triple digits along the central Utah Colorado border. That wind concern persists again into Wednesday, where we expect to still see those 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts across southeastern Nevada, southern Utah, and the Arizona Strip. Minimum relative humidity still remain critical and in the single digits to low teens across those gusty wind areas in the southern half of the Great Basin, and in the low teens to low 20s where we've been having our rain in the northern half of the basin. On Thursday, most of the basin remains at moderate risk and under a high risk trigger for wind, where we expect our strongest winds over the next 3 days in the 35 to 45 mile per hour range. Northern central Idaho remains at low or little to no risk due to the chance for precipitation across northern Idaho, which you can see with that low pressure system moving across the north there. Here in the convective outlook, you can see that area of T-storm risk across northern central Idaho, where we marked in our 3 day we expect to see some wet and dry storms. And on the right, you can see we expect up to a tenth of an inch of rain across most of that area, with pockets up north of up to a few tenths of an inch. The biggest concern Thursday is that large area of high winds, which are higher than we've previously seen the past couple days. We can expect gusts to be between 35 and 45 miles per hour across southeastern Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. Minimum relative humidity still remain critical and in the single digits between 4 and 7% across those gusty wind areas, especially in Nevada. A little bit of recovery into the low teens in southern Utah, but again, with those higher winds, that risk still remains in place. And then, of course, you're going to see some RH recovery up north in northern central Idaho from that precipitation potential. The next 3 days of precipitation shows most of our precip across northern central Idaho, which we expect on Thursday, and the rest of the basin will remain dry with no precipitation over our large fires. On Friday, we've marked no high risk triggers, and most of the basin remains or moves to moderate risk as things dry out. Northern eastern Idaho, as well as western Wyoming, move from moderate to low risk or little or no risk due to precipitation received on Thursday. On Saturday, things continue to dry out, and the entire Sierra Front is expected to move from low risk to moderate risk, and northern central Idaho from little to no risk to low risk. The rest of the basin remains at moderate risk due to the continued dry conditions. On Sunday, that drying trend remains in place, causing most of the Great Basin except northern central Idaho to move to or remain in that moderate risk category. We could see some spotty precip as that low pressure system moves a little to the south, but overall still dry and breezy. On Monday, we see no change to those risk categories. The basin continues to remain at a moderate risk and underneath that dry air mass, except northern central Idaho, which remains in that low risk category due to precipitation received from the previous few days. But you can see we're still within that dry air mass. The next 7 days of precipitation show at least up to a tenth of an inch across portions of central Idaho, which we talked about in the 3 day, but for the most part, the rest of the basin remains completely dry. The next 8 to 14 days show the chance for above normal temperatures across the entire basin, especially in eastern Utah, in the orange for most of the rest of the basin. For precipitation, we're at near normal, which is still dry. It's pretty normal to be dry at this point, but all of the basin at that kind of near normal value. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.